And here we are at the press conference for the Des Moines Challenge 2022. We're out here at Pickard Park, joined here by Ricky Wysocki, Ledgestone Open champion. Questions been flying around the internet. First and foremost, Worlds is coming up just around the corner, and someone like you who just won Ledgestone, you're here at Pickard Park. What's going through your head when you sign up for an event like this?
Yeah, you know, I heard a lot about it last year, the course being amazing, the event being ran really well, and yeah, I mean, we still have a little while, you know, a whole week after this event to practice for Worlds. So we got adamant amount of time, and I feel like I'm overall healthy, you know, a little bit of shoulder pain, but yeah, I just wanted to play this event. It looked like a really great course, and you know, I'm excited to give it my first run in a while. Came back to the Des Moines Challenge maybe like 8-10 years ago, so it's good to be back.
What are your thoughts on this Pickard Park course?
It's amazing. I feel like it's if I had to compare it to a course, it'd be like somewhat similar to like Jonesboro, where it's got rolling hills like that, lots of bomber par fours, and you know, a lot of the upshots, you're still throwing drivers into the greens on a lot of the par fours, which is challenging. So you're throwing a bomb drive and then maybe a bomb sidearm or a backhand, like shaping shots. So yeah, it's a thrower's course. I would say it's, you know, obviously it's always great to putt well, but if you're throwing well and giving yourself a lot of chances, you can score well here and give yourself a lot of birdie chances. I think that we're going to see some low numbers, and you know, I think it's going to take 30 to 32 unders to win the tournament.
So, just hypothetically speaking, if the World Championship was at a new facility and there were new courses that you needed to see, would you be playing a tournament this soon before the tournament?
I mean, honestly, probably I would, because I want to keep my game ready, and obviously I can practice, but learning your tendencies and what you do as a player when you're under pressure, you can only replicate that by playing an event. So, if I make lead card and I'm playing final day, that's such good practice mentally and physically to say, hey, I'm warming up my body and warming up my mind to what it's going to be like playing a world championship. So I think I use it as practice. It's mental practice, it's physical practice, and obviously I want to win. So yeah, it's really good all around for me and the type of player I am to just keep the competitive juices going.
After all these years, you've played so much disc golf. I even remember watching you at the AM National Championships at Toboggan a long time ago when you were throwing sidearm and spin putting primarily. All these years later, you still have this hunger to get out and win and put yourself in these situations. What keeps you motivated after all this time?
I think for me, the game of, the sport of disc golf is ever changing. So is your game. You're always searching for that, can I make my putt better? Can I make my, drive, can I drive farther? My sidearm more dialed in. You're always craving that, will to get better. And I think that's what keeps me coming back is even if I win, there's still things that I did wrong that I can improve on. And so that's the beauty of it is there's, it's just like life. There's always something to learn and get better with, and that's just like how I treat disc golf. And, I'm always practicing. I'm always on that quest for perfection, but that's not what disc golf is. It just keeps you coming back, and your game and everything evolves. But my quest to get my game and my to the best it can be is always going to be there.
One last question for you, maybe two more questions for you. I asked you a question after you won Ledgestone about what you called blackout mode, and people are laughing because Paul calls it McBeast mode, Eagle calls it the flow state, you call it blackout mode, which is a little bit funnier than the rest, but I didn't quite get the answer that I wanted from you. I know there was so much going on after you won. I would love for you to describe to the fans what it feels like when you enter that space.
Yeah, I think for me it's kind of like when you get to a point in a round where you feel comfortable with the nerves, with the pressure, and it doesn't feel like nerves. You just kind of like, you're out there, I wouldn't say going through the motions because you're dialing in on each shot and honing in on each shot, but the nerves don't affect you in a negative way. They're affecting you, they're almost affecting you in a positive way because you're like, you know what you have to do, and you've practiced all week long to get into a situation that you're in. And then the blackout mode kind of comes when you just feel calm, cooled, and collective. And it all comes with practice. That's the right practice, and throwing the good shots and creating that positive muscle memory really is what gets me into that mode and makes me feel comfortable with each hole in every different situation.
Last question before I send you off. The Iowa State Fair is in town, and it's likely the biggest in the country. First off, have you been this week?
I have not, unfortunately, but I'm going to definitely want to check it out.
Well, if you do check it out, I would like to know, what is your favorite fried fair food?
You know, I've always went with the funnel cakes. Funnel cakes are our go-to, little cinnamon sugar on there, or what is it, powdered sugar on there. And then, yeah, you know, the barbecue, the, you know,
Ooh.
turkey leg on a stick or whatever. The turkey legs are good. Yeah, the food's amazing. Yeah, and you go on some of those spinning rides and barf a little bit maybe. that's what I picture when I think of fairs. It's just those super spinning rides. You get off and you're like woozy.
Well, Rick, thank you for the information. Good luck this week.
Thanks, Brian.
Brian lied. One more question. You mentioned, you know, after your win last week that, you know, there's been some more lingering injuries. With you, it seems like it's been one thing after another this season. But you haven't missed a lot of time. What's the long-term plan for you? Are you just accepted that you're just going to be dealing with these things forever, or are you just trying to tough it out to the off-season and hopefully get to 100%?
Yeah, I think for me, it's toughing it out until the off season, and you know, I'm going right after this to do some dry needling, and that's been helping a lot. But I feel like I play almost more than anybody. I'm playing almost 2 rounds a day, putting for an hour, 2 hours a day. So I just, you know, and I've been doing that for 10, 12 years. So it's just kind of, you know, it's something that happens over time. But I take ice baths, I eat healthy, and it's not something that's going to be a forever thing. It's something that I think just is happening because it's late in the season, and you know, I think you know, it's something I'm really working on. That's why health and wellness is so important at any stage of your career.
Thanks, Ricky. We'll be right back.
Thank you. Cool.
We're joined here now by Iowa native and fourth place finisher last year at the Des Moines Challenge, Ben Callaway. Ben, we're back in your home state. It's really endearing to listen to you talk about your home state of Iowa. You love it here. You have an Iowa hat on. Talk about what it means to come back here after being on the road and playing tournaments in your state that you love so much.
I mean, it means a lot for me. I've heard the term or the phrase coined, the pride of Iowa. That's how people have been referring to me as, and I feel like it's pretty accurate. I mean, I'm very prideful from where I come, and I love the state of Iowa very much. The courses that we have here, along with the people, it's everything that it's everything that I have embodied myself as a person, and I feel like I show that on tour. But yeah, I love coming home and playing in my home state so much.
Got your family coming out this weekend. Got Ruby and Sarah coming to see you, and they watched you last week at the Ledgestone.
Yeah.
What does it mean to have your family come back and support you on tour as well?
Everything. Being on tour and being away from them for so long, it's definitely one of the hardest things I've had to do in my life. So for them to be able to come to these last two events, it means a lot. The support and just the love that they're going to be sharing with me this past weekend is going to be very meaningful.
Well, you won the Des Moines Challenge in 2019 when it was an A tier. You beat Terry Roethlisberger.
I did.
But now it's an Elite Series event, and I know this tournament has been in your crosshairs for quite some time. You finally took down the Rumble recently, which was a tournament that takes place in Iowa. You've been looking at that one for a long time. What is it going to take for you to win this tournament out here at Pickard?
I think I just need to keep my head down, make my circle one putts, and really try to just not pay attention to the surroundings of the scores around me. Like, I feel like on tour I've been really struggling mentally with a lot of things that I probably should not be. So this week I feel like it's a perfect time to reset before Worlds and just buckle down, play, because I've been playing this course for 13 years. Like, I know it like the back of my hand. I know it's a little bit different, but it's still Pickard Park, and I can score very well here as long as I can just score where I know I can and make my putts inside the circle. I feel like I have a really high chance of winning this tournament.
You got to participate in the GK Skins match yesterday. I believe it was Paul Ulibarri, Zach Melton, and who was the fourth one? Ricky Wysocki.
Yeah.
How was that experience, and how do you feel like it prepared you to play this tournament this week?
Well, it was a wonderful experience. We had about 60 or 70 people come out and spectate, which was a lot of fun. A lot of cheers from the crowds. It felt really nice because it was just kind of like a lax round for me. It was still pressure, obviously. We're playing for money, but it was a lot of fun. So that I feel like that is when I am playing at my best, when I'm just kind of very relaxed, throwing shots that I'm well aware that I can throw, and just playing disc golf. So that mindset I'm going to try to take into the weekend.
Great. Well, enjoy yourself, Ben, and good luck this week.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Gotcha. Yeah. That was great. Yeah.
And we are back, and we're joined here by another Ledgestone Open champion. Missy Gannon is here in the clubhouse. Missy, beautiful Thursday afternoon at Pickard Park. How are you feeling about the course and your game?
I'm feeling great. I actually took today off, but I practiced pretty hard yesterday and the day before. Not a lot of changes. There are 2 completely new holes, but for the most part, everything's the same that I remember. So thankfully, again, I'm able to rely on basically 1 disc. So yeah, so my thrashers are going to be doing work out here.
Has that become your play style over time, or have you always been that kind of player?
You know, I've always heard that it's you know, a huge benefit when you don't have to, you know, think too much about your disc selection. So I think it just sort of developed over time, and I found the disc that's just so perfect for me, and I'm able to work them in and work them the way I want to. So yeah, whether it's a 220-foot hole or a 400-plus foot hole, I'm pretty much able to throw a thrasher if it calls for it, which it usually does for me.
I've heard some actually great comparisons to another world champion and another thrasher-loving player, Valerie Jenkins. Very similar play style, straight, consistent, great putter. Mm-hmm. Going into this course, how do you feel about the layout for the FPO?
I love it. You know, I think it's very scoreable, but we also have some longer holes that kind of make you have to decide whether, you know, how aggressive you want to get. And specifically, I'm talking about hole 4 out here. Last year it was, I think we played the same exact hole as the MPO division, but as a par 4 for us. And I'm assuming a lot of people probably birdied that hole. I don't really know the stats, but it was on the softer side for sure. But now we're faced with a similar decision to the MPO field, whether or not, you know, or how aggressive we want to get on that shot. So I think there's a good mix of being able to throw far, but also being technical. And yeah, I love this course.
I asked Ricky earlier, you know, I essentially just asked him, why is he here after winning Ledgestone and the Worlds is coming up?
Sure.
You know, what brings you to Iowa? Same situation, pretty much.
Yeah, you know, I have to obviously try to defend my title. You know, I think that would be a big misstep if I didn't come back after this being my first win of my career on the Pro Tour last year. So while I feel a little less pressure now going into the event because now I have Ledgestone under my belt, I'm still, you know, yeah, of course it would be awesome to try to go back-to-back and win this one.
Well, I got to ask you another question. Iowa State Fair's in town, and it's one of the biggest in the country. If you were to go, well, first off, have you gone yet?
No, I have not.
If you were to go, what would be the first fried food you'd go for?
Oh, boy. I don't know. You know, I don't think I've ever tried a fried Oreo. I don't know if that's something they have, but I've heard that's a big thing. Pretty much whatever pops out at me, I'll give it a try. But yeah, now that everything's kind of calming down a little bit in terms of all the interviews I've been having to do and stuff like that, maybe I'll have some free time for us to go hop up there.
Well, fantastic, and good luck this week, Missy. Here's Matt.
Thank you.
Missy, your average finish jumped up dramatically last year after this event. Do you consider this a turning point this time last year?
You know, maybe. I'm hoping so. That I kind of have been getting that question, like, what is it with you in the second half of the season? And I don't really know what it is, and I don't know if that's going to continue to be the case, but I certainly would be okay with starting to pick it up from here on out. So, yeah, hopefully the trend will stay the same.
You're not far behind Owen in the standings. Do you have your eye on that 4th place spot being such a big difference between 4 and 5 in the long term?
Yeah, actually, right after Ledgestone, I did check the standings to just sort of get an idea of, you know, where I'm at, and hoping that would have been enough to bump me up. But unfortunately, kind of a double-edged sword. I've played pretty much every Pro Tour event, and Owen hadn't. So 2 of our events will drop. It probably evens out in the long run, but I've had such a consistent season that a lot of the points were kind of high that dropped off for me. So I think I still have a little bit more time to get up there, but yeah, it's definitely something that I'm trying to get.
Missy, thank you. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
We are joined here by the tournament director of the event, Ty Tannatt. Ty, I overheard that this is the second event you've ever ran, and the first one being the Des Moines Challenge last year. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I've ran a few non-sanctioned events here in town. We did an event at Principal Park, like a baseball stadium, but yeah, I just decided to kind of take the plunge last year with the help of the Des Moines Metro Disc Golf Club, our president Amanda Beery, and Titan Disc Golf owner Matt Schlabach that kind of showed me the ropes and helped me along the way. And basically, my role as TD is more of like head organizer, you know, like planning and putting everything together, and I really do enjoy that stuff, so it kind of came naturally, and with their help, they made it easy for me, so super stoked.
How many people are you working with this week? What's the staff looking like?
Oh my gosh, we have over 100 volunteers. My volunteer coordinator Jeremy and Angie over there, they're making my life incredibly easy right now because they put together an amazing list of volunteers, over 100 over there. Plus we have a staff of 25. Plus we have like basically another 25 to 50 spectators that basically become volunteers and staff throughout the weekend. So it's an incredible community here, well organized, and just super thankful to have those people here.
You've turned Pickard Park into absolutely an elite level course that the players seem to really enjoy across the board. Who all was involved in that process, in that redesign?
Oh my gosh, so many people. Basically anybody I could ask, basically anybody that wanted to help. So I call them the Indianola crew. We got Jamie, Chad, Earl. They brought all the chainsaws, all the power tools, all the weapons out. Amanda and her husband David. We talked to several pros like Gavin, Gannon, Kale came out, and basically anybody and everybody that wanted to be involved. I wanted to get multiple people's perspectives. So like all the new changes you're going to see, we probably had at least 50 people minimum go through them, look at them, and just kind of converse and talk about it and see what we could all come up with together. Like, it's definitely not a one-man show at all. I would not be able to do anything without these people, so amazing support from them.
Well, let's talk. We made some more changes this year. Hole 3 being a huge change, brand new hole going to the same basket.
Yeah.
I'm hearing some players say the hole is too tight, yada, yada, yada. Obviously, this happens with any brand new hole that we see. I would just like to hear from you. What is the philosophy on hole 3?
Yeah, for hole 3 last year, if you remember, is very simple. In my opinion, it's just a forehand hyzer or a lefty hyzer, obviously. And we have a great, we have a huge set of trees over there, and like Pickard is mostly wide open, so the thought was, why don't we make a cool wooded hole, kind of Idlewild style? And basically, it took us about 6 months. I think we started in December, and we just got done in July. And when we were done with it, we're like, all right, it's good right now. I want to see how the players play it. I do think it is a little tight. I think there are a few. They're not gimmicky, but they are kind of tricky little spots that you have to get to like, you basically have to land at the edge of the dirt or the mulch and skip down there and get within maybe 20 to 30 feet. That's basically the play. And I was like, yeah, let's just see how it plays. Like, we can always make changes. I don't want to take too many trees out and have it be too easy. We can always go back in and cut out what we need to. So that's kind of the philosophy behind that. We'll see how it plays and see what we can do next year to mix it up.
The weather is always seemingly a factor out here.
Yeah.
Friday, Saturday, looks like there's a chance of thunderstorms. Last year, unfortunately, the tournament got cut short because of this unpredictable weather. What is your plan, and what have you learned from last year?
Yeah, great question. So, yeah, it's crazy. We didn't have rain for about 4 weeks. It rained on Monday, and now there's potential for rain and storms this weekend. Luckily, with our experience from last year, we do have the capability to get people out of here quickly, and we have basically shelter at a couple churches across the street and the middle school down the road. So we have evacuation plans if it gets crazy. I don't think it's going to be too bad. I think from the people I've talked to, it sounds like everything's going to go on, and we'll be able to have the concert and everything Saturday, so looking forward to that. And yeah, overall, you just got to kind of roll with the punches. Our crew's ready. We have a great staff. The DGBT's here, Seth Muncie, so we'll do what we can to make sure we get all 3 rounds in.
I really have one more question for you. A lot of fans asking about Wander Disc Golf. I know last year you were huge, and obviously you're the owner and founder of the company. You have your hands kind of full right now this year. You've changed roles quite a bit. What's the status and state of the company?
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, in November I became the retail manager for the Disc Golf Pro Tour, so that kind of put Wander a little bit on the back burner for me. You know, I want to fulfill my role for the tour and make sure their retail team is doing excellent and thriving, and that's my main focus after this event. With Wander, you know, yeah, I just want to keep pursuing the goal of spreading awareness about mental health and what disc golf can do for both our mental and physical health, and support people like you. I mean, we did a lot of cool things, and I think it was 2 or 3 years, and the more I can do for those type of players in the future, that's kind of where I want to see Wander going, and continue to help people thrive on the road and travel and be wanderers, as we call them. So thanks for asking.
Well, good luck this week, and fingers crossed for the conditions.
Thank you.
Ty, the disc golf competition is kind of the opening act Saturday. Talk about, for those who don't know, what's going on Saturday night.
Yeah, so we'll have Corey Wong out here about 8:15. We have a cool stage over here. We have like an amphitheater that we've built over here. Corey Wong's a Grammy-nominated artist, plays a lot of kind of jazz, funk, really upbeat, and we also have Kevin Jones opening up for him. So it's going to be a great time. Nice little festival atmosphere over there. Really looking forward to that.
And talk about, back to the disc golf, talk about the Iowa disc golf scene for those who don't know. You know, we go everywhere, and a lot of tournament directors try to kind of brag about their state. What's Iowa got going on? You know, obviously the big names, Gannon and Benjamin, who we just talked to. What's the disc golf scene like in Iowa?
Yeah, I think the biggest stat for us is just we have the most courses per capita in the country. So it's been incredible, the amount of support that we've gotten since last year. I think in the metro area we're putting in at least 3 to 4 new courses since then here in the Des Moines metro area, but we have a little Facebook group, 515 Disc Golf. I feel like every other week I'm hearing about a different course opening up, or the parks directors asking about what they need to do to open up a course. So it's just an overall, it's a fun sport. You can play it in an open park, and I think a lot of smaller communities realize that the people in the state of Iowa and the Midwest will travel to their little communities to play this sport, and it's just kind of good for their tourism. So that's kind of what it is here in Iowa.
Thanks, Ty. Best of luck. We'll be right back.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. We're joined here by last year's runner-up at the Des Moines Challenge, Jessica Weese. Jessica, how you feeling?
Feeling good, super good. I am excited to be out here back at Des Moines. I know I played great out here last year. I've gotten a couple practice rounds in, and the course looks pretty similar, so there's a few change-ups, and I'm really excited.
Well, question for you, how do you feel about the change-ups on this course, hole 3 being one of the biggest changes out here?
Yeah, I really like hole 3. I think it plays to my advantage. I'm a flippy sidearm player, and I feel like it's perfect downhill flippy sidearm.
Like Kristin. Nice little cameo from Hogan.
Little visitor.
Speaking of which, you and Garrett just got a dog.
We did.
Talk about that.
Today is day 15 with little Tilly Girl. You can follow her on Instagram, Tilly Legato Girl. I just made her Instagram, but she is so exciting. She is only 5.5 months old. We actually got her because we went to dinner at Chef Andrew Zimmern's house, and he has 2 of these dogs. We absolutely fell in love with his dogs, and I had to ask his wife, like, hey, do you have the contact information? Because I seriously want one of these. And then not even a week later, we got in contact with the breeder. We were super excited. We actually put her through training because we're on tour full time. So she went through training through puppy stages, and that really helps. I would highly recommend that for anybody who has a busy lifestyle because it really helped us.
We have so many new road dogs out there on tour this year. What is it like being a pet owner living out of a trailer, essentially?
Yeah, so right now we live truck and trailer. We actually have a cargo trailer that we built out, so we have a air conditioner, a bed. Her little dog crate fits perfect inside of there. And actually, Garrett had somebody install his meat smoker so that we can cook our meats. It's installed into the side of our trailer. So we're pretty much set for tour life, and being that we just got a puppy, it brings so much joy to our life now. Man, I swear it's the greatest thing.
You've talked to me recently, getting back into more disc golf related things. You've talked to me about injuries. You talked to me, you've been up and down, as a lot of people who deal with injuries have. How are you currently feeling? How's the body feeling? And how is the sidearm feeling?
The sidearm's feeling pretty good. I was dealing with a couple, I don't know if you knew or multiple people knew, during the Junior and Masters World Championships, I had a little hand surgery. So it wasn't anything major. My hands healed up within like 2 weeks, but I wasn't able to throw any discs. And so I feel like that almost, built the fire up inside of me, and I was really excited to get out there and throw discs again. Many of you know that many times I've been injured, I've actually thrown left-handed. This was not the case. I had surgery on both hands, so I wasn't able to throw left-handed or right-handed, and it just made me a little bit more hungry, and I'm really excited to be back.
Well, fantastic. Last question before I send it over to Matt here. Iowa State Fair's in town this week, and it's one of the biggest in the country. If you step onto the grounds of the Iowa State Fair, what's the first fried food you're looking to get?
Ooh, fried food. I hate to say this, but probably a corn dog. I never eat corn dogs, but a fair corn dog is just completely different. I've never had a fried Twinkie before, so that might be on my top 3 list. Other than that, I mean, fair food is great. I love it.
Thank you very much. Here's Matt.
Thank you.
You had a great podium finish here last year. Is this, this coming at this time of the season, is it kind of a sigh of relief to say, okay, I know this place, I know how to play here, and I know I can do well here?
Well, I'm getting down to the point where I know exactly what I need to work on in my game, and so I'm not quite focused off of the tee pad as much. I'm gaining all of my strokes off of the tee pad. It's where I'm missing my strokes, and that's inside of circle 2. So I feel like anything inside of 90 feet is really where I need to dial in my focus. I feel like sometimes I get lost and I'm not aiming where I need to be aiming, or maybe I'm just looking at the basket as a whole and I'm not like dialing in. And I think the tunnel vision is really going to help. So I need to get out there and, dial it in, really focus.
Appreciate it. Thanks. We'll be right back.
Appreciate it.
We are joined here by last year's runner-up at the 2022 Des Moines Challenge, Calvin Heimburg. Calvin, out here at Pickard Park. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good. Excited to be back here. Only a few changes to the course, so most of it's pretty familiar. But yeah, excited to play here again.
Big question for you. Hole 3, brand new hole, wooded hole. Are you going to throw the backhand off the tee there, or is it pretty much forcing players to throw something with counterclockwise spin?
Yeah, I'm not really actually sure on that one yet. It's not my favorite change to this course. I don't really know what the shot is yet. It's one of the ones I'm going back out to kind of try to figure out the puzzle this evening. But yeah, the gap gets really small at the end. That's borderline, probably not even really fair. And then especially with like the way the fairway shapes up and how it slopes down on the green, it just seems like anything that you want to throw to actually hit that kind of shot is going to flare into the waters. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing there. Backhand might be the solution, but that's going to be a pretty touchy line. You're going to have to do a really flippy disc on a lot of hyzer out of the gap.
Well, we got to talk real quick before we get back to Pickard. Last week you shot the course record at arguably the hardest course in the world, Northwood Black. I followed you for most of that round, and you looked absolutely unstoppable out there in the course. Do you feel like you still kind of have that energy coming into this tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good. I mean, I felt pretty good last week for the most part, minus one round that, I mean, it was just like abnormally bad. So, yeah, the game feels really solid. The lines here are obviously a little less technical and easier to hit. Less places to really get in serious trouble like Northwood Black. So I feel pretty good. But with that being said, it just means that, you know, more people are going to have the ability to shoot lower with more ease here. So I think it'll probably be a pretty tight race to the end. Not really sure what the winning score is going to be. I think it's going to be very dependent on the wind. But we'll definitely see some low scores out here this week.
Another question for you, coming back here to Pickard. You know, last year you got second to Paul McBeth last year.
Yeah.
What needs to clean up from your last year's performance in order to take down the victory this week?
I mean, honestly, when I was out here last year, I played the course really well. There was only one stretch that I played poorly on, and it was when I had to come back early in the morning and play after the rain delay, where we had to finish like the last, I don't know, it might have been like 6 holes or so early in the morning on Sunday. But other than those 6 holes, I probably played the tournament better than anybody. So I don't really know if there's anywhere to clean up. It was just, yeah, those 6 holes kind of did me in on that tournament. And yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen this year.
World Championships next week. After this, got an off week, and then the tournament starts pretty soon on the Tuesday.
Yeah.
Are you getting straight to Emporia after this tournament, or are you going to take a little break before the big major?
No, it's going to be straight to Emporia, get the practice rounds in, make sure we're ready for Worlds. It's probably it is the most important tournament of the year. I mean, it holds the most weight over any tournament we play. So I want to make sure I'm ready for that. We got a little preview of it this year with the DDO tournament. Hopefully it's not as windy as it was for that tournament. I think some of the holes out at like Jones Supreme are designed for like moderate wind and not like the high winds that we were experiencing. So I'm hoping it's not quite as windy and we actually get to kind of showcase, you know, what we can do and attack some more holes than we did earlier this year.
Quick question. Do you think Jones Supreme is a good course if the wind is down?
It's hard to say. I haven't played it really in any kind of like calm conditions. I think a lot of the holes out there that kind of seemed kind of not great, some of it probably had to do with the wind. But I really haven't gotten to play there many times. I didn't get very many practice rounds before DDO. I did the skins match at Eagles Crossing on the Tuesday before, so that was kind of an underprepared tournament. But yeah, I think a lot of those holes are definitely more attackable and will be played at a better level if the wind's down some. But yeah, we'll see how it all goes down this year at Worlds.
Obviously got to finish this week first, but last question before I send it to Matt. Iowa State Fair is here this week, one of the biggest in the country. What's your go-to fried fair food?
I don't even know. I haven't really been to a fair and gotten fried food in a while, so I don't know. I guess, I don't know, do they do fried ice cream at the fair?
Yes, they do.
I love fried ice cream. I just like ice cream in general, but yeah, I'll go fried ice cream.
Thank you, Calvin. Good luck this week.
Calvin, fingers crossed we don't have any weather delay, but how does a player deal with a weather delay typically, as far as, taking a timeout and then not knowing when you're going to resume? What's kind of the game plan, and how do you adjust to that?
I mean, there's not really much of a game plan. Every weather delay is different, how long it's going to last. So it's really just, take it for what it is, just relax, and then when time comes, just try to regroup and play the best you can. But there's no real way to game plan it, because sometimes, it's 30 minutes, sometimes you tee off the next day. So it's pretty hard to game plan. You just have to, take the shots as they come.
When would you say during your round would be the worst time to take, say, an hour-long rain delay?
I don't know if any time is better or worse than the other, because either way you're going to have to come back. But I mean, it's obviously harder when you're playing well. If you're playing well, it kind of sucks to get out of that rhythm and have to stop for an hour. But I don't think there's like a particular part of a course that would make a difference to me. It's just really, sometimes it hinders you because you're playing well. Sometimes it helps. Sometimes you get an extra hour to kind of reset when you're not playing great, and then you can come back and you're in a new frame of mind, and you can play better than you were. So, yeah, I think it has more to do with how you're playing rather than where you are in the course.
Thanks, Calvin. We'll be right back.
And we are back. We're joined here by Iowa native Sarah Gilpin. Sarah.
Yes.
Pickard Park, beautiful place. How you feeling this week?
I'm feeling pretty good. Had a pretty good showing at Ledgestone last week. I was actually feeling more confident than I have all year off the tee and everything. So hopefully I can carry some of that momentum into this tournament here.
Obviously Iowa native, and we're here at Pickard Park. How does it feel to be playing an Elite Series event in your home state?
It's so cool to see that this has become an Elite Series here, so close to home. I just try not to overthink it too much, though, because I feel like, I don't know, yes, I'm from Iowa, but it puts a little extra pressure on me, too. So
Definitely. Well, I mean, how are you feeling about the FPO layout this week at Pickard Park?
I like it a lot, and they've made quite a few changes from last year that I think are fantastic for the FPO. I think scores will be lower this year. A couple of tee pad changes that are huge. Big improvements from last year. So I would think that we're going to maybe see even like a 6 to 10 down, possibly, if the conditions are good. So.
And this is actually a topic that I want to talk about because players rave about how good the Sunset Hills course is for the FPO division because the scores are actually there and it's not just trying to survive the track that plays a lot of the same tees as the MPO. What are your thoughts on scoring in the FPO division and course design?
Like you said, I think courses like Sunset, it's nice to be able to actually get birdies or eagle opportunities. Yeah, the big arms maybe have a little advantage, but there's also a lot of trouble too. So it gives I feel like it gives the FPO field as an entirety a chance to score well. So
we seem to see your name all over the place every season, and yet we know for a fact disc golf's not your job. This is a extreme hobby for you. Obviously, you take it very seriously, but what is the life like of somebody who is playing a lot of these big tournaments and traveling a lot, but isn't making a career out of the game?
Well, I made some changes this year, actually. I went part-time at my job as a vet tech in March. And it's a little different for us, too, because we have supplemental income with our reptile business that we run. We breed geckos and sell those. So that's between the leniency that my boss allows for me to be gone from work and that extra income, it makes traveling a little bit easier for me. And I also just like having a home base, too. I don't know that I'd want to tour full-time, honestly. I would always like to come back home and see my pets and everything. So.
Well, we have to address what you just brought up. You breed geckos, and I know that you and Andrew have done a lot with reptiles in the past. How did you get into that?
It was just something, I mean, he had reptiles growing up, and then when we met, he got me my first gecko when I was 16. And then it just kind of, one thing led to another, and we wanted to try breeding them, and then we're like, well, this would be cool if we could make a job of it, and one thing it all just kind of fell together, I guess, so.
So what does your house setup look like in regards to accommodating this type of business?
So we got a new house about 5 years ago, and we remodeled the entire basement for accommodating the geckos. So we call it the gecko suite. It's pretty awesome.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Jumping back into disc golf, what do you work on? Obviously, you're not full-time in disc golf. What do you feel like you need to keep practicing in order to keep up with this division?
I spend a lot of time I try to just really work on my areas of improvement, like Seth says. I do a lot of upshot practice, putting practice. I don't have big distance yet, maybe someday. Always working on it, but I really try to focus on the upshots and just good putting. That's what I'm always working on. So.
How many hours a day, for someone that does have a job outside of disc golf, how many hours a day are you putting into practice?
I try to do 1 to 2 hours a day if I can. There's some days where I just rest and take a day off, but at least an hour usually a day. So.
And one last question before I send it off to Matt here. You're the Iowa native. Iowa State Fair is here. There's thousands of people that go to this every year. What is your go-to fair food?
Oh my gosh. I guess you're going to hate me. I haven't been to the state fair in years, so I don't know that I can really answer that.
Unbelievable answer. Thank you. I'll send it over to Matt.
You're welcome.
So that aside, you're still an Iowan?
Iowan.
Iowan. What's the disc golf scene like in Iowa? For somebody who doesn't know, Ty just mentioned there's the most courses per capita. Mm-hmm. What's special about Iowa in disc golf?
Oh man, that's a hard question. The Des Moines crew has an amazing crew. Cedar Rapids has an amazing crew of just constant coursework, trying to make the places better, including everybody, different leagues and everything like that. Really friendly atmosphere. I don't know.
Thanks. We'll be right back.
Yep.
We are joined here by another Iowan and a breakout superstar in the Disc Golf Pro Tour, Gannon Buhr. Gannon, how are you feeling today? How are you feeling this week?
Putting's been really bad the last couple weeks, so I just got to get that dialed in. Everything else feels pretty good.
You have had a hand in designing and redesigning this Pickard Park course. How do you feel about how it's looking this week, and how do you feel about the new hole 3?
I like the rest of the course. I think hole 3's, they didn't listen to me when I said take out the couple trees by the basket, so hopefully we can get that achieved next year. But I know a lot of the players agree with me as well. I think that'd be like the one thing we need to do to make it a really good hole. Right now it's kind of gimmicky, so that's kind of the only thing we need to change. I think the rest of the course is looking amazing. I think the new changes with, we lost a couple trees on old hole 13. That was a pretty easy birdie last year. We had it elevated with a little bit of OB bush, but we lost pretty much every single tree in that due to the emerald ash borer bugs or whatever, destroying those. And also on hole 4, all those trees are gone due to the same reason. So that was kind of sad to see them go. Luckily, it didn't affect hole 4 really at all, except for a couple drives would hit the trees and drop OB. Drop zone's a little different on 4 as well. Now it's kind of like, do you want to take a 5 or do you want to take a 3? You can kind of run the putt, which is, kind of nice with the trees being gone. And the drop zone I feel like would have been too easy and kind of boring from the last year's. But the new changes with 14 being longer, the new 13 is also really good. So I think the course is, shaping up pretty nice this year.
First big year on tour for you, just traveling pretty much full time. Are you still enjoying it?
Yeah, I'm sad. It's almost over, honestly. We look at the season, we only have, this, Worlds, GMC, MVP, and then we got, USDGC and Pro Tour Finals, and it's pretty much over at that point. I'm not going to be probably playing any of the wraparound events for 2023, I'm not playing like the Butler County, whatever, Silver Series event, so I have school, so I can't make that one, but I'm sad, honestly. It's almost over, but I'm gonna just grind harder in the off season and hopefully have an even better 2023.
So we've talked to other young players that have still had to do school, and a lot of them have said they're doing it online. Are you gonna have to come back and go to physical school to finish up?
Yep. The Monday after this event, like the day after the final round, I'll be in class sitting at a desk, and I won't be able to leave for Worlds until the Worlds doubles. I can't play, obviously, the Butler County Classic because of the school. I got to pick and choose my events I go to now because I can't miss too much school. I have until January until I'm done, so I just got to kind of, grind that out and get it over with. That way, for 2023, I'm 100% free from torture, and then, it'll be a good year.
Yeah, I guess talk about this. I mean, is it going to be hard for you to be a good student, or is academia a pretty natural thing for you?
I like to think I'm a pretty smart person. Sometimes I have a bad work ethic when it comes to school, especially when I'm focusing on disc golf and seeing myself, be one of the top 10, top 5 players in the world right now. It's tough to want to care about doing good in school. It definitely, my grades suffer just a tiny bit. I'm not failing any classes or anything or getting too many bad grades, but it definitely makes it a little more difficult because disc golf is what I'm getting paid to do. I'm not getting paid to sit at a desk at school. So I still try to get the best grades I can, just because being a good student is really good. Disc golf is definitely my focus.
And it's clearly your focus. I actually have a pretty funny question to ask. You actually mentioned to me a couple of months ago something about my commentary on Gatekeeper last year, and it obviously told me that you still watch post-production coverage. Are you still in this sponge phase of disc golf where you're just absorbing as much content and video footage as possible?
Pretty much. Every time I'm on Jomez, I'm so hyped the next morning. I'm like, oh, come on. I'm always refreshing the page just to watch the videos or any coverage. Gatekeeper, I'm always watching. Women's coverage. It's anytime I can see disc golf is, my favorite time. So, honestly, it's fun to even like at Ledgestone, go back and just watch what some of my mistakes were, and see what I can improve for my other shots.
Yeah, I guess before I send it off to Matt here, what are the big mistakes that you're finding yourself making this year?
Especially just at Ledgestone, putting was a big issue. It's been the last couple events. I've had a couple rounds where I just drain every putt, even though I'm still shaking. I'm so nervous. Putting, I'm just so nervous on. I don't know why. I can't fix it, and it's on and off some weeks. And right now, my putt just feels bad itself. you know, I won't know if I'm nervous until the event happens. Sometimes I'm not. But like looking back at Ledgestone, I really feel like I should have won that event. You know, I shot a 5 down at Northwoods with 4 missed circle 1 putts, and it's not unreasonable to say like I would make all those. And then, you know, I had a stupid mistake on hole 13 at Ledgestone, threw like the most perfect drive you can ever imagine, then just, you know, threw it too low into the OB pond, and that cost me 2 strokes. You know, I could have easily had 11 down there, like not asking for too much really, which is 11 down insane at Northwoods. And, you know, to see myself still, you know, finish 3rd place at Ledgestone with so many just dumb knucklehead mistakes, it felt like, is a good stepping stone. It means that even my bad days are still, you know, better than, you know, a lot of people. And I think that means that when I am on, and when I can finally put together, you know, 3 just incredible rounds, you know, I'll easily be able to take one of these events down.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that I'm not going to be beating you at Pickard Park anymore, but good luck this week, Gannon.
Thanks.
Gannon, you posted a funny video the other day about, you know, I had to ask about kind of poking fun at the pace of play conversation in disc golf. How closely are you paying attention to that? Because your name comes up obviously a lot in the pace of play discussion. Are you buying into that? Does that bother you? Are you thinking about it a lot when you go into tournaments?
It's definitely like coming into, like, I guess touring last year, I didn't even know I was a slow player. I feel like, I mean, Nico's even expressed the same thing. Like, you get into a state where you forget time. It just happens. And especially for me, like when I get really nervous, I take longer. I just am worried about what can go wrong. I know, like first round at Ledgestone, I tried to, the second it was my turn to throw, just walk up and throw. And you know, round 1 at Ledgestone, I was able to shoot the hot round by 2 strokes, and I was pretty much playing speed golf. Pretty much every throw was under 20 seconds, and some were, you know, under 10. So I slowed down a little bit as I got more nervous, and it's gonna be something I'm gonna obviously try to break. But I thought you know, it's okay to, you know, make something funny out of, you know, an issue I have, and, you know, especially if I can improve it, it could, I guess, be something funny, I guess, to look on. And I thought that audio was pretty amazing for, you know, the idea that, you know, me, Silas, and Thomas had to make that video.
Is it nerves? You mentioned nerves when you're putting. Is it 100% nerves that when you look back and, you know, whether or not you're told about it in official capacity, you know, the 30-second rule, is it 100% nerves, or are you actually that part of your routine?
It's pretty much 100% nerves. Like,
yeah.
I can't even describe. Like, I shake when I'm on the course because I'm so scared to, you know, make a mistake. Like, you know, obviously I hold my hand up and my hand's just like uncontrollably shaking, and it's specifically on putts. I have no issue. I mean, I get nervous on the tee, but it never affects the shot. Where like putting, I feel like, you know, I do my short arm thing, and sometimes it goes in, but, you know, recently I've just been struggling lately, you know, not being home that much. I haven't, you know, been able to do like my 500 putts a day from 30 feet. So it's like, it's, you know, it's frustrating, and, you know, I had to go back home. I'm probably going to do, you know, 500 to 1,000 putts tonight just because I'm very frustrated, and hopefully I can find a good way to fix it and get prepared for tomorrow's round.
Do you ever, does that help at all? You know, because it seems like you putt 1,000 putts every day, it seems. You seem like I see you there out after the round on the putting green. Do you kind of calm your nerves the more practice you have, or is it all the same?
I don't know. I don't think it really helps that much. I don't know. It all just depends on the tournament. Like I have no idea if I'm going to be nervous or not. Like, you know, I can't think of a tournament. Specifically D-Glow, like, yeah, I felt really good going into the event. My putting, I just couldn't miss, and in the tournament, I was just shaking. It was the most nervous I've ever been. I putted horrible then, and I've kind of putted bad, you know, from D-Glow on, you know, until now. You know, where other events, you know, such as Idlewild, I wasn't nervous at all, and I guess that's between then. But I made like every putt with no nerves, and it was just weird how that happens. I don't know, but hopefully I can find a way to mitigate that, and maybe playing faster can get rid of those nerves.
Shifting gears a little bit, one last question. You know, you're an Iowa guy. This is you grew up. How far is Urbandale from here?
I live like 40 minutes from
40
the
minutes
course.
from here. So you've played this course a lot, to say the least.
Yeah.
How awesome is the Iowa disc golf scene? You know, we talked to Ben earlier, Ty earlier. You know, Ty mentioned there's as far as courses per capita, Iowa's up there, if not the top. What is it about the state of Iowa in disc golf that's so special?
The community's like super strong, some of the strongest communities I've ever seen. In disc golf, obviously I've traveled around everywhere, and I still think Iowa has one of the best communities. We all just love the game so much, and we care about our courses, and we really want to improve them. Pickard out here is a hidden gem. It wasn't really known, I guess. I mean, the Des Moines Challenge has been a thing, and it's been a tournament, sometimes it's big, but now with it being on the Pro Tour, it's pretty huge. And with it just popping on last year, even some pros didn't really think too much about coming, and then the pros that did, some of them, it was their favorite event of the year, and that just means a lot to me. Obviously, partially helping with the course design, and just this being like my home course growing up. I consider this my home course, even though it's somewhat far from my house. It's the one I enjoy playing the most, and if I'm choosing to play a course, if my mom will drive me somewhere, I'll come here. So it's I have good memories out here, and I've won a couple intermediate advanced tournaments out here. So I've been playing here for pretty much my whole career.
Thanks, Gannon. We'll be right back.
Thanks.
And we are back. Five-time world champion and one of the most decorated overall disc athletes of all time, Juliana Korver. We're back in Iowa, and we're at a very special place in your heart. Talk about this.
Yes, we definitely are. Indianola. Before I went on tour 20 years ago, this is where I lived. I lived about a mile from this course, and so this would have been the early 90s or late 90s, and this course had just gone into the ground at that time.
What is the sell of putting a course into the ground in the 1990s? I mean, you said you helped put this in the ground, and you pretty much did it.
Yes. So one thing that people who aren't from rural communities need to understand is that there is land everywhere. So you don't have to fight for the land like you do in places like California or more metropolitan areas. So that part is an easy sell. But disc golf was still an unknown back then. So that took a little bit more effort.
Coming back here, it's an Elite Series event at a place you've spent so much time at. How do you feel about the FPO layout and how this course has evolved over the years?
I love how this course has evolved. So I was the original designer, but things have changed quite a bit, mainly because approximately holes 10 through 15, that part of the course, that land was not available at the time. They thought in the long-term plan of the park that they were going to build a lake, and that area would have been underwater. So I was not allowed to look over there. So more of the course was over, like between holes 3 and 4, it went out towards the road, towards the corner, and then came back and utilized more of the woods. But because they didn't end up doing that long-term plan with the lake, we were able to utilize that beautiful, beautiful section of land. And every time I come back and every time I see the changes, I'm just thrilled, because I think the evolution has been fantastic.
I also want to talk about just you being on tour still. I mean, you made a pretty big pivot, and you've been out here. This is your second year back on the road. Apparently the Rookie of the Year last year. But how are you feeling on tour right now? Do you feel happy and satisfied being out here still? I know middle of the season sometimes can be a bit of a drag.
Because of the slow start to the season, I don't feel like I can take any weekends off, because if I would take a week off, then I would not have every possible score for making it into the Tour Championships at the end of the year, which is the ultimate goal. So I think that part makes this part of the season a little bit tiring, knowing that I just can't step back from it. But for the most part, big picture, I'm very, very happy. Of course, every once in a while, the bad rounds, bad holes, it's hard not to get down. But again, big picture, having the opportunity to do this twice in one life is really remarkable. And to be able to see the growth in the sport itself and the fact that touring now really means something. Before we used the word, but there were three of us in a car going from tournament to tournament, and we just decided which tournament was important. So I'm really blessed to be able to see both sides of this.
Yeah, I mean, you told me in a podcast that we did a couple years ago that the reason you kind of stopped, or one of the reasons you stopped competing the first time, was because of the stressors of competing all the time, and that's why you got into the overall Frisbee world and freestyle and whatnot.
Yeah, that was part of it, but also It didn't change. Nothing changed. So after doing it for 4 years, and winning a lot and still barely making enough money to get to the next tournament, it was no longer stimulating on any level, and it became just kind of rote and wasn't interesting. I wanted a different challenge. But now, I mean, if I were a young player, as I look at these young players, it is completely realistic that this is what they're going to do their entire career. And it is moving and changing enough that that's going to be fulfilling, and the challenges are going to be immense, and they're going to keep being different challenges, ones that we can't even imagine right now. So I just think it's so exciting for the young players. Well, and I guess you don't have to be that young to be out here and be enjoying this right now.
Yeah, so I mean, you're saying the challenges and how tough the field is now, and how you're not maybe performing as good as the winner every weekend. Is that something that is stimulating to you, and that's something that you were missing before?
Well, I try not to put the same I mean, it's not even the same sport as it was before. So, I try not, and I try to be realistic about my expectations versus the field. But of course, it's hard not to want to be at least towards the top. And intellectually, I believe that a top 10 is a successful event for me. So I can be happy with that, though sometimes emotionally. Actually, sometimes when I have a great round, it makes it harder, because then I see, yes, I really, really can still compete. And then maybe the next round's not as good. And after getting my hopes up a little bit, then they come crashing back down.
Thank you for the honest take there. Last question from me, really. Do you miss freestyle?
Yes, I miss freestyle. I miss DDC. I miss the overall events. I wish that there was more of a push from tournaments today to do some of the overall stuff. That was more of something in the previous years. And I guess I should, since I want to make it, well, I wish it were the case. I have the ability to make that happen. So, there are so many wonderful disciplines that use a Frisbee. And somebody who is great at disc golf is probably going to be great at one of those other ones if they give it enough time. And so I really hope that a lot of the other players get the opportunity to try the other disciplines as well.
Last question for me. How do you feel this week game-wise? Do you think you can take this tournament down?
Is it possible? Yes. Do I expect it? Heck no. I would be very happy with a top 10. And if I play to my abilities, yeah, I can be there.
Thank you, and good luck this week.
You and Scott Stokely were winners in 1997. You're both registered to play 25 years later. What hasn't changed about disc golf in this tournament?
Oh. I guess the two of us. So much has changed. I mean, I actually went back and looked at the stats for that event, and it was a tiny, tiny tournament. I think it might have been an A tier, maybe it was a B tier, I'm not sure. But I mean, the number of players at that event was so small, and at the time, that's just a tournament. We didn't have tournaments filling, period, much less in 2 minutes after registration opens up online. So it's easier to talk about the things that have changed than the things that haven't changed.
What about disc golf in general? What hasn't changed in 25 years?
The family, the Frisbee family. No matter if you know another person or not, if you have disc golf in common, there is a connection, and I think that is palpable. It was then, and I still feel that now.
Thank you. We'll be right back. Here by the CEO of the Disc Golf Pro Tour, Jeff Spring. Jeff, the players love this course. They love Pickard Park. How does it feel hearing that from the players? A lot of complaints flying around these days.
Well, there's always something to complain about, Brian, in anything in life, and disc golf's not immune to that, but Pickard has been kind of universally praised, and last year it was surprising. This year it's good to hear the continued good sentiments about the layout, the design. I think everyone has fun playing it seems so, but last year this was a kind of a replacement for the canceled European trip. Like, we were going to go to Europe for the first time. We were going to cover PCS Sula in Norway. That was canceled due to COVID, and then we had this as one of our high-end submissions that didn't make the schedule cut, and we were able to pivot. Ty was fantastic, and it was just probably the best surprise of the year last year.
Another question for you, just another general topic. We're seeing disc golf obviously grow like crazy, not as much as it did during COVID era.
Right.
We're still seeing growth, but how optimistic are you for the future of disc golf and the growth of disc golf from the perspective of the CEO?
Very optimistic. I think that you're right. This year has been an interesting year in a lot of ways because the acceleration of growth due to the pandemic is now starting to wane. That doesn't mean growth's not accelerating. It just means it's accelerating at a slower rate. So it's been interesting working with all of our partners, all the companies within the industry, to see how different companies are reacting, how their business is faring. We're doing great. We're excited for the future and optimistic about 2023, which is on my mind because that's basically most of the work that I'm focused on right now. Obviously, we're in the moment. We're doing a lot for every event in front of us, but any spare time is spent focusing on 2023, and I think it's going to be the best year of professional disc golf ever. So.
Well, you have a lot of challenges and obstacles to overcome before that. There's a lot of topics flying around, people trying to fill in gray areas of our sport the more legitimate we become. What are some of the biggest gray areas that you as a CEO have to deal with?
Well, there's a lot, as you mentioned. I'm really just focused on, executing what we have prepared and planned, I guess. So when gray areas come up, whether it's like rules has been a big topic throughout the year, whether it's a stance rule starting at the Champions Cup, excessive time, discipline. Those are all topics that we are stakeholders in with the disc golf, with the Professional Disc Golf Association, and those are things that we have long-term plans for. But when they come up in the moment, you don't want to be overreactive. You want to continue down your path, down your plan, and that's what we focus on. We focus on executing here. We're really excited to cover Worlds next in Emporia. That's a watershed moment every year for the sport, and we're really excited to provide the best coverage that we've ever provided live of it. So I'm really focused on the black and white, but when those gray areas come up, we normally have a plan for it. We're reactive as need be, but we try to stick to the long-term view. So, with rules, I will clarify that, our contract with the Professional Disc Golf Association as official pro tour of the PDGA says that we will abide by PDGA rules. That said, we also have agreements to evolve Disc Golf Pro Tour rules and standards, kind of as we see fit, as approved by the PDGA. So we're in like an active discussion on some of these topics. The one thing I can say is that this isn't like, okay, hey, something happens and we're going to change the rule or policy. There's already a process going on. We already have discussions going on, like with the PDGA about here's our feedback for rules in the future. Here's what we think excessive time, evolution should be on that rule, or discipline evolution, or this is the need of the Disc Golf Pro Tour. So, even though that might not come to the surface, Brian, like that's all going on right under the surface, and we respect and enjoy the relationship with the PDGA, but we just have long-term plans.
Kind of a specific question again. A lot of these talks about rules and structure and infrastructure in regards to the pro side of things has been brought up quite a bit this year. The topic of marshals and course marshals is brought up so often these days, and some people say that theoretically we should have a marshal following each and every card, we should have a marshal per 9. What is that like, from your perspective? What's feasible, what's not?
Yeah, so I'm result oriented, our company is, and I think that the result that we all want is for the rules to be understood, followed, and enforced as accurately as possible. And our organization is a big piece in that puzzle. And what it comes down to is, kind of working with not only the players to understand their perspective, but the PDGA to understand like where the rules are going, what enforcement capabilities we're expected to have, what our own organization feels like we should provide for the players. We're doing this on a step-by-step basis, baby steps, right? I think we improve every year, and we continue to improve. So this year, I can say we've had more course officials out on the course being resources for players than we ever had before. Next year, we'll have more, And the officials' role on the course will continue to evolve based on player feedback. But like right now, we want to make sure that, when we have officials on the course, they're resources for players. When they see rules that need to be called, they make the call. We're not 100% on that, but we're learning, growing, and taking steps forward. I think our goal is to have active officials that walk with some cards, but also static officials that can check in on groups periodically, whether it's a third and 2/3 of the way through or halfway through, just to provide a resource for every player in the event.
Well, thanks, Jeff. Before I let you go, any other current topics happening at the Disc Golf Pro Tour that you feel like you should bring up?
Not that come to top of mind. I mean, we have a lot going on all the time. We're excited, I guess, for the first stint of the Disc Golf Pro Tour playoffs. I guess I'll just remind the fans and viewers at home that Green Mountain Championship and MVP are going to be worth 125 points. A standard DGBT event is worth 100. So those events are going to kind of head towards the qualification for the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship, which is going to be in Charlotte this year. And as we get closer, that field's going to get pared down. We will still have big fields in those events, but in order to get in the event, you have to qualify either through your Disc Golf Pro Tour points, a regional qualifier, or a week of qualifier. And actually, for MVP, we're hoping to have a nice, healthy number of week of qualifiers, so that should be exciting in and of itself. So, yeah, Disc Golf Pro Tour Playoffs 1.0, they're coming up, and yeah, we're excited to see how they go.
Well, fantastic. Thank you, Jeff, and have a good rest of your week.
All right. Thanks, Brian.
And we are joined here by Brodie Smith. Brody, there's been a lot of talk about you the past couple of weeks, especially on Twitter. What's going on here between you and Paul McBeth?
I think I've said all I've wanted to say on the matter. I obviously made a lot of mistakes and focused on some stuff that I probably shouldn't have been focusing on, and so now it's all on the disc golf and focusing on my game and moving forward.
How does your game feel right now, physically, mentally?
This week feels tired. I don't know if it's because of the last couple of events. Obviously, the last event was a big one. 2 big courses, and mentally too, going through Northwoods. That is a bit of a tough one. So I've got about 24 hours before I tee off tomorrow. Do all the things I need to do to recover and feel good for the tee time tomorrow.
As an athlete, coming from an ultimate background and training as hard as you did playing ultimate, how easy is it to do that on the road touring for disc golf?
It's definitely harder now that I'm older than it was back when I was younger in ultimate. It's a weird balance I have to try to figure out because obviously I'm trying to make up as much time as I possibly can, and there's so much I need to still learn and get better at. But at the same time, it's, if I do too much, then it kind of can almost put me out of practicing for the next couple of days. So it's a fine balance, trying to figure out how to be as efficient as possible and to work on parts of my game that's going to help me the most. And then obviously in the off season, it's a little bit different. But yeah, when you're on the tour life and you're out here and you're driving from event to event and doing that, it can definitely take a little wear and tear on your body.
I mean, also with practice, you seem to do a lot more field work than a lot of other touring professionals, which is actually shocking to a lot of people because there's really not that much time to put in field work. What are you currently working on in the practice field? I mean, you're still fresh to the sport compared to a lot of other people.
Yeah, I think this year is the first year that I actually feel like I have all my discs kind of figured out. Now, obviously, I lose a lot of discs, so it's trying to find that slot again, but at least I know like all the slots that I need to find. And then, field work for me, it's just obviously fine-tuning the shots that I'm comfortable with, which is a lot of the hyzers or the hyzer flip-ups, and then also spending a little bit more time on shots that I'm not super comfortable with. More of like the flex angle, Annie kind of shots. Those are the ones that I'm still not 100% feeling when I get on a tee pad, and that's what the shot is asking for. So that's, it's kind of mixing in both and just continue to kind of try to get better and continue to grow the game.
I mean, you've come an extremely long way. I think you're at a place that a lot of people, when you first broke into the game, didn't think you'd be. Do you still feel like you're a sponge right now? Do you still feel like you're soaking up information and absorbing what you see from other people?
Yeah, it's interesting because this is where I thought I was going to be in year 3. I thought this was the year that I could actually kind of compete and try to take a couple of these down. And, I haven't been successful at doing that, but I have been putting myself in that position. And now it's just more about trying to figure out, how do I pick up a few strokes here and there, watching some of these other guys that are able to do it, what they're doing differently than what I am. And then also you got to put yourself in those positions as much as possible. I'm kind of on the fence on whether or not when I go back in the off season in Texas, whether or not I want to play in some of the smaller events to kind of put myself in those positions almost every time, because if you're playing in a local event and there's only 5-10 guys, you're always going to probably be in the running to win it. Where out here, sometimes it's just not your week, and you can kind of be fighting against the cut line or the cash line. So it's just putting myself in more of those positions and getting comfortable in those positions. And as you've seen this past, you can't really not play aggressive. So it's learning how to constantly play aggressive, but at the same time picking your spots at taking your medicine. But you can't just come into a course saying, I'm just going to play these holes for par and these holes for birdie. The guys out here are too good.
Well, you're tuned into professional golf very, very tightly as well. What does that game look like? Is the aggression very similar at the top level?
I think it's very course dependent there. I think some they can really just bomb them off the tee, and it's really just get as close to the green as possible. Where out here it's a little bit different, obviously in the woods and stuff. I think a lot of times, I was finding myself in a lot of trouble off the tee at Northwood, and so a lot of times it was, okay, how do I get to the landing zone that I wanted to be from the tee? I could have been a little bit more aggressive and maybe gotten another 100 feet, but that also could have put me in more trouble. So I think that's the difference of just trying to figure out course dependent. But like I said, going into this, I think Ricky said it earlier today. He thinks 10 under on average, 30 to 32 is going to win it, and 10 under out here is a good score. So you have to kind of put pedal to the metal and give yourself as many birdie chances as you can.
I mean, distance-wise, me and you played last year at Clash of the Canyons, and you blew me away with a particular shot you threw with a vulture. It went about 530. I paced it off. I was shocked at how far you were throwing the control driver. Out here at this course, do you feel like having that type of power distance with spin is very effective, and do you think it's going to benefit you out here?
Yeah, I think there's a couple. I mean, hole 1 and hole 2 right off the bat, hole 10, those 3 holes, and I'm sure there's more, but those 3 holes off the top of my head, like if you can throw a 450-foot shot with an overstable disc that kind of never has a chance of really going OB, that is such an advantage on those holes, especially when the wind kind of picks up. I think that's one of the reasons why I was pretty successful at DDO, was when the wind got really high, I was still able to throw decently far with really overstable plastic and keeping the disc in bounds. When you're having to move the disc, and this is something that kind of Ezra has taught me this year, was really, he likes to try to move the disc as little as possible. So instead of having it come out in hyzer, turning over and going right and then fading, that's a lot to kind of work with. If you can kind of just keep it on hyzer and keep it on one angle the whole way, you can control it a lot more. So learning that, and then just trying to be more explosive in that kind of hyzer release are things I've been working on.
I mean, you're saying it best right now, talking about Jones Supreme. You played that course almost better than anybody this year at the DDO. Worlds is there in just a couple of weeks. What do you think you need to clean up from your DDO performance to take down the World Championship?
Yeah, I think Country Club killed me. I think I was very competitive at Jones, like you just said, both rounds, and then Country Club, I had 2 really poor rounds there. Playing with Ricky the final day, it was clear that a power sidearm there is super useful, and that was a throw at the time that I was very cautious with, and I think now I'm starting to get a little bit more comfortable. So I think you'll start seeing me throw a lot more sidearms out there, and if it's a good putting week for me and I can keep it in between the white lines, hopefully I can make a push again.
Fantastic. Well, good luck this week.
Thank you.
1 second.
Oh, not done yet. Oh, sorry.
One more, Brody.
Oh, yeah.
Just removing yourself from the back and forth between you and Paul, do you think, these things happen all the time in sports, whether you call it a beef, a back and forth, a rivalry. Do you think it's good for the sport in general, or do you think there's no place in a sport like disc golf?
I mean, I think it's good when it's like on the course stuff. I think off the course stuff, I think that was my fault. I don't think off the course stuff, we don't have the media, we don't have the reporters, we don't have that type of thing that kind of gets that from other places, and a lot of times, they say what's in the locker room stays in the locker room. That was kind of on me for letting that kind of get out into the world, and obviously that's something I've already apologized for. It should never have happened. I think rivalries and going up against other competitors on the course is a great thing. I don't know necessarily if I like having the stuff off the course on there. And clearly Paul's on a completely different level than me, so I don't, I've already kind of addressed, like, we're not really rivals, or at least, I mean, I can view other people as rivals, but that doesn't mean they view me as a rival. So, but I think having, people going up against others and having that competitiveness of these two guys, like, they don't see eye to eye on maybe some things and want to beat each other. I think that makes it a little bit more entertaining probably for the viewer than two guys that are, super friendly and rooting for one another when in fact it's an individual sport.
Thanks, Brody. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
We are back, and we're joined here by Kristin Tattar. Kristin, Pickard Park, a couple weeks before the World Championships. How are you feeling this week?
Feeling good. I mean, the elbow is a little bit sore and painful, but I think when I'm competing, I'm not thinking about it and trying to hold back a little bit during the training rounds. So, yeah, overall, I think I'm happy.
Well, you mentioned to me at Ledgestone that you were going to be leaning on forehand a little bit more. Forehand doesn't hurt as much as the backhand. Mm-hmm. How did that strategy play for you at Ledgestone? Did it tend to make your elbow feel a little bit better?
Yes, yes, I guess so. But obviously, when there's a clear, like a backhand line, I'm going for it. Because I know in Emporia, there's plenty of backhands out there, and I know I have to throw them. So, yeah, just not overusing my elbow, and when I have the chance, then I go with the forehand.
And I guess I have to ask the question, you know, we do have Worlds in a couple of weeks. You do have probably the opportunity to take this tournament off. What brings you to Pickard Park to play this event?
First of all, I really like the course. I remember it from last year. We had a little bit like a stormy weather interrupting us, but I only have good memories from here, and I'm so excited to play this again this year. Yeah, I can't wait to see what the week has in store for me.
I'd love to ask, actually, for some details on that. A lot of the players are saying that they really like playing out here, MPO and FPO T-pads. What about this track is appealing to you?
I think it has like the perfect length. It's not like a super long course, but it has some very, very nice holes, and I think it's just very well designed. Plenty of challenges on the course, and makes me use both like backhand shots and forehand shots, and of course there's room for errors. It's not like super wooded, but still, yeah, technical. That's why I think everybody loves it, because I think the best player probably wins here.
So then for you, I think a lot of people are also wondering, with the injury that we keep talking about, what does your recovery routine look like after practice rounds, after tournament rounds?
Well, unfortunately for this issue, there's no recovery plan, like at least not right now. The main thing would be not to use my elbow at all, which is not possible at the moment if I want to compete. But I can't make anything worse, I guess. So I'm allowed to like use painkillers, and again, just watch myself during practice rounds, not to throw too much, and trust myself, and know that I've been in these situations before, and I have the abilities to execute these shots. Not like I don't have to throw 10 times on one T-pad.
Well, it's great to at least put yourself in a situation to trust yourself. That's going to be it for me today, and good luck tomorrow, Kristin.
Thank you.
And we are joined here by the reigning champion of the Des Moines Challenge, Paul McBeth. Paul, back at Pickard Park, couple of changes. How are you feeling about this track this year?
It looks good. It's very dry. I heard there was a lot of rain on Monday, but I got here Wednesday and it looks dry as I've ever seen it. So looks like it's going to be a quick course, you know, very fast fairways, fast greens. But yeah, some small changes, but I mean, it's the same Pickard I remember. A lot of fun.
I'll ask a question I've asked a few players. Hole number 3 has sparked some strong opinions. Do you feel like you have a pretty solid game plan on that hole?
I'm assuming a lot of people don't like it, the change. It's different, and it's still very new. And I feel like maybe 1, 2, or maybe 3 trees could go and kind of make that a little bit truer of a hole. I have the disc I'm throwing, but it's kind of more of a poke and hope I get out and get a look, and if not, I'm hoping for a par. So
you got Worlds coming up in a couple of weeks, and you decided to come out to Indianola, Iowa, and play the Des Moines Challenge. Are you seeing this event as preparation, maybe mentally, for the World Championships, or are you really locked in on winning this and defending your title?
I mean, I'm here. I want to win this one, and Emporia and the courses that we played there, we played them earlier this year, and it's such a small town. I even after this, I might stay here an extra day or 2, or maybe just go to Kansas City, because I don't want to get there too early, because it is only 2 courses and it's somewhere we're all very familiar with, and I just don't want to get burnt out of that town. So just mainly because it's so small, not because I don't like it, but just so small that I don't want to feel like I'm stuck there. So
everyone's talking about you being on a losing streak, so to speak, which is a shocking stat to have someone bring up. I don't think they would do that for a lot of other players. I think they said 12 tournaments you haven't won in a row. But you've gotten second quite a few times. How do you feel about your game right now?
I think I've been very open that this offseason was a tough one for me, and it just wasn't how I wanted it to be, and I can kind of see, I can definitely see it in my performance. You know, the preparation that I usually put into an off season, this one was not as, nowhere near as defined or clean as I would like. So this isn't unexpected. Like, if I was to be open and honest with myself, it's not unexpected. This is kind of, yeah, it's all in the preparation. So you know, I've tried to use the season as my preparation for Worlds and the late half of the season and the big events. So yeah, so that's kind of, yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
So I just interviewed Gannon Buhr, who you've gone to battle with a few times this year, and he admitted that he's still such a beginner at heart and such a sponge of the game, soaking up all sorts of information, watching all of the post-production coverage, watching every bit of disc golf content he can, and he's still learning at a rapid rate. Is it hard to be in that mindset years later? Like, how do you remain interested in competing?
Yeah, I don't watch coverage. I don't listen to the podcasts and disc golf as much as, you know, I did, because it's very overwhelming, you know, and it's a lot of the same storylines, to be honest. You know, now I'm here and I can watch it. You know, I can see Gannon doing, you know, what people are talking about. I can see Varela doing the same stuff. So I don't necessarily have to listen to it, which is nice. I'm here, I'm present. So I mean, it's awesome, because I still want to be that same student of the game as well as where I'm studying, and right now I'm actually very focused on myself, because this is normally what I would do in the off season. You know, I'd study it, but I feel like I have to do that in the season right now. So
I guess people would like to know what you are studying. What are you thinking about in regards to the game, and what do you feel like you're still learning?
I think I'm still learning everything. You know, I think there's always something to work on. You know, putt mechanics, driving mechanics, all the little things, and trying to make it as fluid as possible and make it as smooth as possible. Because in most pro sports, people will be like, "Man, you make that look easy," and that's the goal, is to make it look easy. So that's what I want to do, is continue to make it look as easy as possible, because it's not.
You've set an incredibly high standard. You and a few people from your class have set an extremely high standard, and now the field is catching up in regards to round ratings. Is it going to be harder than ever to be a 1060 rated player because of all the players below you scoring very solid these days?
I think the big thing is just, I don't know if it's as far as ratings, but it's doing it consistent enough to have a rating, you know, or an average essentially that high. Because now you can't have an off round because there's more people that are having on weekends, you know, to where if you had an off round, you wouldn't get caught. You'd have a little bit of cushion. Now it's a little bit harder to get that top 5, that top 10, let alone, you know, win the tournament. So, well, I think Ricky just got his third win last week, and he's the only player to have 3 Elite Series this year. And so, yeah, I think previous years we were having 6 or so. So.
I interviewed Ricky last week after he won Ledgestone, and he referred to this feeling that he calls blackout mode, and everyone says that you have something similar you call the McBeast mode. I try to get him to describe what he feels when he's in that state where nothing can go wrong. What does it feel like for you, and do you feel like you've been good at getting into that state this year?
I don't think I've gotten into that at all this year. I think mentally it's kind of where I don't even have to think about playing disc golf. I'm present and I'm there, but I don't have to think about my shot. I don't have to think about it because the thing I notice the most after these big tournaments, these big wins, is Monday I am totally exhausted because focus. That's the biggest thing I'm lacking is the focus of it and trying to stay in that mindset for 18 holes. I can do it for 9, but for some reason I don't know what it is, that separation, you know, to get a complete 18 holes, but it's when you play great golf, it's mentally exhausting more than physically exhausting. And if you know that mental exhaustion, you know how much physically it takes it out of you. So I'm just trying to figure that out, and what that little, you know, what they say is there's one more gear. So you're saying essentially with all the successes you've really had and all the almost victories you've had, you don't feel like you've gotten into that state pretty much ever? Not this year. Ever, sure, yeah, sure, ever, but not this year.
I was saying, yeah, this year is what I'm talking
about.
No.
Well,
good luck this week, Paul. Here's Matt.
Thanks.
Paul, I have to ask, we just talked to Brody. He seemed almost remorseful over, you know, how the exchange that happened online, mostly it happening online, not face-to-face. Have you talked to Brody in person since the exchange?
I haven't talked to Brody in, where are we in, August? Since last year, probably, I think. I don't know what happened online. I had one comment. I don't see any of it, so I don't know. I haven't talked to him, and I haven't seen any of it. I can't see any of it. So,
do these things have these kind of beefs or interpersonal rivalries happen offline that, you know, the public might not see a lot in disc golf?
I guess. I mean, we're all competitors. When we're here, we're all competitors. So at some point, it's going to carry over to where, just like in any sport, I feel like you're always going to be competitive. You want to be competitive, and sometimes there's a line that gets crossed. But you know, sometimes you can figure it out, sometimes you don't. But we're playing a competition together, so it's difficult. It's difficult to have friendships forever. It's very rare, I feel like, on and off the course, that the top players in sports or top personalities in sports can be friends of that scenario. So I don't know. Well, I'm sure we'll talk at some point, but we haven't talked in almost a year, it seems like.
Appreciate it, Paul. Thank you.
Yep.
We're good.